Ethereum, Bitcoin, and the rest of the crypto market has another few months of upside action, in my opinion, as we've broken out of the downtrend and we look to move into a bull market. Now, I do have an indicator on my chart, and I'm sorry to all the other purist traders out there. I know there's a lot of guys who like to show you loads of indicators on YouTube because they look fancy and whatever, but most of the time they're rubbish. This, however, is worth taking a look at on a longer time frame in terms of actually like trading and things like that. Don't really like them. Okay, so this is a relative strength index, shows how strong the price is, and ultimately the higher it gets up here, the more chance you've got of it turning back on you. But one thing that is worth noting is when you have a high typically on the price chart, you will have a high typically on the RSI. But what you can see is that this is the direction of the price since back in August, and this is the direction of the RSI since back in August. And this is called a bullish divergence. Now, this doesn't obviously play out immediately, and this happened over a good 4 or 5 months, but ultimately it tells us that at some point it's likely to break. That's why I don't like indicators, because at some point it's likely to do something. Fair enough. But what this is kind of showing us on the Ethereum chart isn't actually as conclusive as what we see on Bitcoin chart. But what we can see is on the RSI, it has run into this significant resistance, and obviously on here we're running into resistance as well. So it's only a matter of time, I think, before we see a continuation further towards the downside. Now, don't panic. That doesn't mean we're going to go collapsing all the way down to $1,000, in my opinion. Potentially, things are actually looking a bit more rosy than that. Before we look at like price predictions, etc., let's look at Bitcoin and see what's going on over here. So obviously we had the lowering in the price, but we also across here had increase in the RSI, or increase in the relative strength. Notice though that now we have come and broken way beyond it and then seen a turnaround, which we haven't seen in the Ethereum chart. And it's this that's telling me more than likely that Bitcoin needs to come lower down. Until we're getting to this sort of 50 level, which is about here, I'm not really looking to accumulate much in terms of crypto right now. The RSI doesn't move exactly with price, it kind of moves around a bit separately, right? But we do obviously have this area on the chart that was obviously going to be a tough area for Bitcoin to break through. Currently sat at around 20,700. I did tell you in a video we had the other day of this being basically a bear flag, right? Obviously people will say, oh, it's a bull flag, it's going up, but when it's rising like this, more than likely it's going to break down. Basically what it does is it ramps up so fast, it runs out of steam, people start to take profits, people take more profits, and then the stragglers are left buying these tops, and then they just get rinsed, right? So where does it come down to? We do clearly have a support area in here where we can see these wicks dipping down for the Bitcoin price. And I am talking about Bitcoin, and if you're like, oh well, he hasn't shown me the Ethereum chart, just relax. We're going to go look at Ethereum in a minute. Bitcoin does the same. Bitcoin does it first. This is obviously where we're finding the support. Now, there's always a chance that we could potentially bounce back up into here, but even if it is bouncing up into here, guys, it's still very heavily overbought for now. I still think we need a bit more of a heavier pullback. If we're breaking this area significantly, then we're going to be looking down towards this level down here. So we've got rain in the background, which is obviously pretty noisy, and then we're looking down towards this level here, okay, which is just sat just under $19,000. Now if we see a push down towards $19,000, now, that's nothing to panic about. That would actually be quite healthy, and probably way more healthy than what we're seeing right now. And what we would then like to see in that area is potentially a bottom coming in, a push, and then a push back into this area. And we could then have an opportunity to be getting in for a potentially great purchase. So if you're looking to like get in on long trades, all we need to do, guys, is identify zones, and then when it falls back down to a zone, you can see how it reacts. And for those of you who didn't rush ahead, you'll realize that Ethereum looks exactly the same as Bitcoin right now. Ethereum actually hasn't really moved quite as aggressively up as Bitcoin, which is interesting, because you would have expected with a smaller market cap it to move slightly more aggressively. But what we can see, a very similar thing going on here, right? Into this zone, we can see already we had our kind of like our rising flag. We broke our flag. Now what's happening right now, people might be tempted to jump in. I'm not saying you can't, because you might just see a push like this, but I do think that even if we get another push here, we're just going to put in another double top, and then we're going to come down to this area. It makes sense that we come into this area, that we don't just continue up in a long run like that. Could be wrong. Let's have a look on a smaller time frame of like an hour chart. And as we know, guys, previous lines of support become future lines of resistance. Okay, so you can see it's basically offered support for Ethereum. Okay, obviously it sort of dipped around there. You can see it finds support, bounces back, which is what this big wick here is telling us. Okay, but we then broke down through, and now starting to lose volume, starting to struggle to get back through. I want you to look at the size of these candles like this, and then compare them with the size of these candles, right? When we get kind of big range moves like this, that means there's lots of volume in the market, lots of people trading. Right now we're in like a bit of a stalemate, right? But at this point, when you reach that tug of war moment, eventually someone's going to slip. And what that basically means is what happens in an area like this is a lot of people start to put trades in. So what basically happens, guys, is a lot of people will start to put trades in. A lot of the bulls would be like, it's going to go up here, and I'm going to put my stop loss under here. But at the same time, you've got a lot of people doing the opposite, where they're going short and they're putting their short position with like the stop loss like there, and take profit down here, right? Take profit in this situation is irrelevant, right? What really matters, guys, really is the stop loss. Because say the price starts to fall and it gets to the stop losses, or where most of the stop losses lie, because most of the stop losses will tend to sit in the same place, just under here, or maybe just under this wick. Okay, when it hits the area just under here, what it does is it turns all of those buys, so in this case Ethereum, everyone who's bought Ethereum, it turns all of those buys into sells, and then this causes a massive sell-off in an area like this, and it causes a very aggressive push down. On the flip side of things, if it's moving up and getting above this red line, then you can see another aggressive push. But I think the safer bet right now is that it's going to push lower, because if it's pushing higher, I would imagine there's a lot of people with sells in place and the selling pressure will keep it lower. I don't think we're quite ready to push beyond this level in the immediate short term. I think the most likely thing is a return to this zone. Now, actually zooming into the 1 hour, we can see something a little bit more interesting for Ethereum than we saw on the Bitcoin chart, and that is if we were to take a rectangle. Now, I told you before about buy zones and how buy zones work. Okay, it's like you can see in the chart prices at which people are prepared to buy something at, and you can tell that because you get an aggressive shove out of it. What I mean by an aggressive shove is like a big ass green candle like that. Get one there, get a nice one there as well. Okay, so you can see it goes like sideways, sideways, bang. Here, sideways, sideways, sideways. But we get a little bit of sideways action in here, which tells me that at this area, something significant happened, because this green candle that comes out of it is enormous. Therefore, we draw boxes in these areas to identify what we might see. It makes it very easy, guys. If we see a push down into this area, and I start to see it getting bored up, and start to see it coming back down and getting bored up, then this is where I'm going to enter long trades for the Ethereum price, because then I get my long trade here, and I can have my stop loss down below this zone, and I can target maybe all the way up to like $2,000, I'm not sure. As opposed to there, if I've got in right now, then I can target something up there, but I run the risk of getting stopped out if we come down and test the next zone, which is more than likely gonna happen. Okay, so what we need to see is it come into an area, push out of that area, showing buying pressure, maybe come back down, show buying pressure or buyer intent again, and then get in on day trades. If day trading is something you're interested in. If you want to know more about trading, etc., then get into my Telegram group. It's linked down below in the description. As well as that, I've been trading over on fairdesk.com. Here are my results. Over the last week, you can see I've taken 290 trades and I've won 100% of the trades. And my followers have seen a profit of $7,499. And some of the followers, you can come down through the list. You can see this guy here has seen $4,000 worth of profit. Just above him, $2,949. And then sort of some slightly smaller accounts, but all seeing some pretty good profits. $100 there, $77 there. So if you're interested in that, go down through the link in the description. When you deposit over $100, you'll get up to 10% back in bonus, which you can obviously use for this. Now, obviously, it's not risk-free, guys. Don't use money that you can't afford to lose. We never know when an FTX news or something like that is about to come out, so always be very cautious, since previous results are not guarantees of the future results. So in summary, I think Ethereum is due to have a drop back down to around $1,450 in the shorter term, more than likely, because we are very heavily overextended. There's no need to rush into these markets, guys. Make the most of a nice calm time. You can always just accumulate slowly but surely a few $100s here and there, whatever you've got lying around. If it goes down more, then you can just get in again. Aim for long term, aim for like 2 years down the line. Keep buying consistently and you'll be fine. Obviously that's not financial advice because I'm not allowed to give it. Hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. If you did, hit that thumbs up button for me, and if you're new to the channel, then subscribe, and I will see you in the very next video. Bye bye.